everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, and thank you all for joining us today. Today, we are discussing leading the charge with workplace charging. Our panelists will explore opportunities and programs promoting workplace charging solutions. This is a great conversation, so stay tuned. I am Simbiat Yusuf Mahler. I am the event manager from Fort. And before I pass it along to our moderator today, we have a few announcements from the Fort team. Attendees, we ask that you please be sure to submit all of your questions through the attendee chat. We will get through the Q&A during our Q&A portion of the webinar. We will also be sharing the webinar slides, presentation, and additional resources with you all shortly after the webinar. So if you missed something, don't worry, you'll get a chance to get the information needed, and we will be sending that in a recap email. And if you're just tuning in and don't know who we are at Fourth, I am here to do that introduction. Fourth is on a mission to electrify transportation. We bring people together to create solutions and to reduce pollutions and barriers to access. Our work is done in 5 focus areas. We have our access to electric cars, access to charging, access to emerging modes, event and partnerships, and policy advocacy. If you would like to learn more about Fourth, the work we do, you can go on our website at fourthmobility.org to learn more about the work of Fourth. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank our members and sponsors for making this webinar possible. If you have any questions about membership, sponsorship opportunity, and how we can elevate your organization's profile, you can message our partnership and membership manager, Rachel Habekamp. You can see her email is on the screen, and it will be linked to the email as well. Oh my, more information about the Roadmap Conference. I know you all have been waiting for this, but we have just announced that our call for proposals are now open. You have until December 15th to submit an abstract. We are inviting proposals on leading developments and emerging questions shaping the future of electric mobility. Are you shaping the future of electric mobility? And we want to hear from you. We have 4 key tracks of vehicles, charging, impact, and cutting edge. If you have any content, best practices, lessons learned that your organization have been working on, this is the time to submit your proposals now. And you can also save up to $500 on standard rate when you register for pre-sale before January 26th. So if you would like to save, please register now for the Roadmap Conference. And as a reminder, Fourth members, you do receive a discount on registration and sponsorship. And speaking of sponsorship, yes, you can also sponsor the Roadmap Conference. More information about sponsorship opportunities will be available on the website, and you can visit roadmapfort.org to learn all about CFP submissions, sponsorships, and other opportunities. And again, we will be taking the show on the road. We are going to be in Detroit, September 24th to the 26th, 2024. Save the date, register now, and I will pass it along to our moderator today. Jeff, join me on stage, please.
Great. Thanks for the introduction and the opportunity to join today. So just to introduce myself, my name is Jeff Pazdalski. I'm the Executive Director of Westside Transportation Alliance, or WTA. WTA is a nonprofit transportation management association that's based in Washington County, Oregon. So we're just on the western side of the Portland metro region. And WTA delivers customized programs and services in partnership with both private employers and public agencies to increase transportation options usage in the county and throughout the Portland metro region. And we've certainly been hearing increasing interest from our member organizations in how they can support their employees' use of electric vehicles of all sorts. Because these workplaces understand that providing electric vehicle charging, in addition to supporting options for carpooling, biking, walking, and public transportation, can benefit their HR and sustainability efforts and support the region and nation's emissions goals. Um, our organization, WTA, we currently manage e-bike loan programs for employees at 2 different work sites that have demonstrated success at increasing e-bike usage and reducing fossil fuel vehicle commute trip rates. WTA also manages e-bike lending libraries at 2 multifamily affordable housing properties that help expand access to electric mobility options for people living on lower incomes. Our organization is really excited about the opportunity for electric vehicles of all types to increase the number of people that are willing and able to use transportation options. And we're really excited about the potential for electric vehicles to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from the transportation sector. And I'm really looking forward to hearing today from our different panelists. So panelists, if you could turn on your webcams and join me here on the virtual stage. I'm going to do a brief intro of our panelists, and then we'll kick things off with an icebreaker question for everyone. So first panelist that we'll be hearing from today is Eli Font, Associate Director with Cadeo. Eli works on projects in deep decarbonization of buildings, transportation, and the power sector. Eli's expertise is vast, and she leads several transport electrification related projects at Cadeo. Next, we'll be hearing from Jason Green, Clean Cities Director, and Lacey Allor, Program Manager, Workplaces and Micromobility, both with Save Energy Coalition. As the Clean Cities Director, Jason hosts and attends industry events representing Northern Colorado clean cities, connects with industry partners, and participates in continuous learning opportunities to stay up to date on market developments. And Lacey's goals involve working with sustainable energy technologies, and she dreams of contributing her skills and knowledge to aid in the fight against climate change. Our next panelist will be Aleksandra Evert, Program Manager with Forth. Aleksandra is a Program Manager on the Access to Charging team. She leads the Electric Vehicle Adoption Leadership Program, which we'll be hearing a little bit about later, and oversees the outreach and technical assistance for the Oregon Department of Transportation's Community Charging Rebates Program. And then our final panelist today is Amy Posner, Electric Vehicle Planner with the City of Alexandria, Virginia. Amy leads the city's efforts to build a sustainable and equitable electric vehicle ecosystem that allows the entire community to benefit from an electrified transportation system. So really excited, and thanks to all of our panelists for joining us today. So to kick things off, and attendees will ask you to answer the icebreaker question in the chat. And then we'll have our panelists just go around and answer the question, what are you most excited about with workplace charging? So I don't know, maybe Ellie, maybe we'll go in the order of our panelists. I don't know, Ellie, if you want to maybe kick off kind of the panelist answers for this.
Sure, I'm gonna go with the basic one. Increase opportunities to charge for people without access at home.
Yeah, I can go next. I'm really excited because I already have workplace charging and I can't charge at home. And so I'm literally trying to help people that are in my same situation.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with folks, especially in Alexandria. There, about 50% of our residents live in multifamily dwellings, or don't have off-street parking. So having workplace charging would be a really great opportunity for them to make the switch.
We're using Lacey's microphone here, so hopefully you can hear me. Overall, I think for the workplaces that we do work with, it's supporting those employees and helping them make that transition that makes a major improvement for them. So much easier transition.
Ooh, I think I'll start with a little teaser for today's conversation. I'm just really excited to see all the innovative tools and programs that are launching and that are available to employers to support making this transition and making charging at work as easy as it is for parking.
Yeah, great stuff. Thanks to all of our panelists and thanks to all of our participants. I see a lot of activity going in the chat. So I think we'll go ahead at this point and we'll ask all of our presenters except Ellie to go ahead and take themselves off camera, and I'll turn the floor over to Ellie. So thanks.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay, let's see if this works. Yes, perfect. So I work at Cadeo, and we're a consulting firm, an energy consulting firm, and we are a research partner for 2 workplace charging DOE-funded projects. So we conducted these barrier studies for workplace charging adoption. I'm going to present the findings to you today. So basically, I just wanted to highlight that the literature out there for transport electrification is wide and vast, but when it comes to workplace charging, there's not that much out there. So the interviews that we conducted were critical for this, for our research. We talked with different people, from experts to workplace chargers, like to employers, that adopted workplace charging, and employers like that wanted to adopt but decided not to. So that gives that perspective as well. Then we talked to utilities, community-based organizations, and NGOs that support employers with workplace charging adoption. So we have a vast findings here. So the findings are organized in 3 buckets. So technical barriers, economic barriers, and achievable barriers. Technical barriers are technical aspects associated with workplace charging deployment. Economic are associated to costs, and achievable barriers are associated more to behavioral aspects, such as knowledge and awareness. So you will see that we organize the barriers from in orders of importance. So in this case, for the technical barriers, we found that the lack of building and parking facility ownership was the main barrier. So most businesses render physical space, right? So they don't own the property, and they cannot make the decision to install workplace charging. And this is pretty common. And there's no incentive really for the owner of the property owner, to install, incur in those charges, right? And install workplace charging when they already have a tenant in place. So this is one of the main barriers that came up in our research. For another barrier is supply chain issues. Since COVID happened, we have seen more and more supply chain issues across different sectors, right? And there's a lack of, like, a shortage of transformers in the United States for the past 2 years, and that has stalled some electrification projects. This is also affecting the deployment of EV chargers. There's also a shortage of skilled workforce. So we were talking with one employer that was using a grant, and the grant required to get a certified EVSE installer to work on the installation, and the person had like a lot of trouble finding somebody that was certified, an electrician that was certified. So that's something that needs to be addressed as well. Workplace charging is a really complex process because you have so many different stakeholders involved, not only within the company, but also outside with utilities, permitting offices, municipalities. So many projects get stalled there, and there's a lot of inertia in that phase, and some projects may die down. And last but not least, some of our interviewees mentioned that there was an unclear and long permitting process. So this will vary by different jurisdictions, right? So it's important to consider this as part of the process as well. Moving on to economic barriers. So this is not a surprise. The upfront cost of the installation of workplace charging is the biggest barrier here. The cost of demolishing parking lots and like running conduit and the electrical upgrades, it's very, very expensive. So this is a huge deterrent for workplace charging adoption. We found that ongoing costs as well are something that might limit adoption of workplace charging, given that like operation, maintenance, and management incurs ongoing costs that make the offer less attractive. On the another type of barrier is the low return on investment. Usually there's a huge cost associated with workplace charging, and at the same time, the return on investment is not really big because chargers are considered amenities most of the times. So that came up, but as you can see, it's not like one of the main barriers, given that like employers already go thinking that it's going to be more of an amenity and not something to get money out of, right? And then lastly, funding costs. As I was mentioning before, there are some grants or other type of funding that may have requirements, such as like making being open to public use. So that might deter some employers to get workplace charging. And finally, achievable barriers are remote working came as one of the primary barriers in this case. After COVID, we have seen a lot of remote working and companies downsizing their physical space and not renewing leases. So that's a concern. Also, the lack of knowledge. A lot of installers that we spoke to were saying that employers have no idea of the type of what questions to ask even, or like the type of chargers. And we also, employers were saying that this was a very difficult decision to make because they were not familiar with all the different chargers. There's a lot of options out there. So yeah, I'm getting a 1 minute left warning, so I'm gonna hurry up. And then the lack of awareness about incentives is something important here as well. Many people don't pursue workplace charging because it's too expensive, but they are not aware of the utility incentives, state, municipal, and federal incentives available for them. And equity considerations came up, not as a huge barrier, but like some employers believe that it would be not beneficial only for some people in the company, those with EVs, and not the ones that don't have EVs. And the people with EVs tends to be on the higher end of the income spectrum. So that's something that they consider. And then vandalism didn't come up as a thing, but this obviously will depend on the geography and if it's open to the public or not. Finally, I want to show quickly this slide, which is recommendations for addressing these different barriers. And I just want to point out like to one, for example, that is when companies don't own their physical space, they can make partnerships. They can negotiate new deals with the owner of the facility, or they can associate, like make partnership with other companies in the same building and make a proposition to the owner. And this is happening. That's something that we're seeing out there. And then another thing that I want to highlight here is, for example, a one-stop shop for information. It came up as something really useful where people can learn about like the incentives, can find EVSE certified installers, can learn about the different chargers, or reach out for support to certain groups like CBOs or NGOs that can provide this support that is needed for employers to adopt workplace charging. We can discuss more in the Q&A. Thank you.
Great. Thanks very much, Ellie. And you see there on the slide, please feel free to put questions that you might have into the attendee chat. We can get to those during the Q&A or follow up after the fact. So now I'm going to turn the floor over to Jason and Lacey.
All right. Thanks so much, Jeff, for that, and Eli before, or Ellie, sorry. Jason Green here with Northern Colorado Clean Cities and our nonprofit Save Energy Coalition Operates out of northern Colorado, and we help different parts of the state. But my concern or my territory is the northern part. We work with a lot of rural folks. We work with our largest town is about 100,000, so it's a pretty tight market here. But I'm going to introduce Lacey here. She's our program manager of workplaces and micromobility, and she'll be explaining to you future-proofing of charging stations.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the introduction, Jason. I'd also like to add, my nonprofit, we have helped many sites install charging stations from Rocky Mountain National Park to the apartment complex just around the block. So we're here to use that expertise to help you future-proof your work sites to be EV ready. Can you skip us or advance the slide, please?
I can do that. All right, there you go.
All right, so to start things off, let's think about the benefits of future-proofing. It supports the electric transition. If you are all aware, everything pretty much is being electrified from buildings to transportation, and you want to be ahead of the curve. Second, and probably the most important one, is it saves a great deal of money. The longer you take to prepare for EVs, the more it will cost in the future. So take a look at the graph we got from ChargePoint's website on the right. They mapped out the increase in cost over time. And some of it could be due to inflation or supply or resourcing from higher demand of installations in the future. But if a building wasn't built with EV charging in mind, owners will need to retrofit the site. And this retrofitting process can take several weeks and cost tens of thousands of dollars. And increasing property value is another great benefit. Having charging stations already installed will, of course, have a higher value, but even just having the conduit in place so that no trenching needs to be done will make the property more appealing. So overall, for some of you workplaces that are in the construction process right now is the perfect time to consider EV readiness and future proofing. So some other things to consider aside from the benefits are building codes. And there are cities that have policies for being EV ready, or at least policies are currently being developed. So this graph is provided by SWEEP or the Southwest Energy Efficiency Project, and they have an excellent guide to EV infrastructure building codes. So for example, let's just take a look at Boulder County here, highlighted in blue, where 2% of commercial spaces have to be EV ready or current for new construction. So again, this is important because you need to know what to do before the policies come for you. And we'll send a link in the chat or at the end of this to SWEEP's website where you can find this chart. Could you advance the slide for me, please?
Sorry.
Okay, thank you. So now you guys are preparing, thinking you might need charging stations, but how do you actually prepare? So the first step is to determine how much power your workplace is currently using and how much additional power you will need. You might need to upgrade your equipment. And second, choosing the right station. There are so many charging stations available, so you gotta pick the one that fits your needs. And you can consider the types of EVs that your employees drive, the amount of power they need, and your budget. And there's also lots of stuff going on with the new charging standard, so keep that in mind and let us know if you have any questions about that as well. Vehicle-to-grid technology is also being experimented with, and vehicle-to-grid basically discharges power from the car to supply energy to the grid when there's high demand for energy. So just another thing to keep in mind for maybe future proofing. Number 3, put them in convenient locations. Think about who's going to use them. Is it for fleets, your employees, the public? Make sure that the charging stations are easy to access for whoever's going to use it. Number 4, establish a policy that outlines how your employees will be able to use the charging stations, like how will you schedule who uses it and how they're going to get billed. And then 5, it's also important to consider future growth. Make sure that you have the ability to add additional charging stations if needed. Have extra conduit now rather than later, dig now rather than later. And I'll also do a quick plug for Out of Spec Studios. Their YouTube channel, Out of Spec Reviews, mainly focuses on car specs, but they also review charging stations and the best qualities of the best stations coming from a consumer perspective. you. So now that you're considering a station, you're wanting to install it, you want to make sure that you have future maintenance covered. And general maintenance includes storing charging cables securely, check parts periodically, keeping the equipment clean, check every 6 months for repairs, check with your vendor if they have a fixed term rate for maintenance, determine if the site host, charging network, or installer is responsible for repairs. And then other maintenance contracts should include a variety of things, but usually warranty and maintenance costs vary based on the charging level and whether the station is networked or non-networked, but we've typically seen it's $400 annually per charger. But overall, maintenance is really important. You really don't want to install these stations just for them not to work. All right. And then the lifespan of charging stations. So now with the last slide here, we want to go over the lifespan. Charging stations can last 7 to 10 years, and you can find a warranty usually for about 5. And there are many factors involved in how long a charging station lasts, such as frequency or how often it's used, the type of environment it's in, like is it hot, cold, snowy, rainy, and how often and well it's maintained. So keep up with the maintenance and you'll extend the lifespan of your chargers. Also, a load management system can spread out the power evenly, which prevents a singular station from being overloaded and worn out. So doing these things can drastically improve the longevity of your stations. But that's all that we have so far. So we'll take questions at the end and I'll pass it off to the moderator.
Great. Well, thanks very much, Jason and Lacey. That was a lot of great information. And again, just a reminder, please keep those questions coming in the attendee chat, and we'll have some time for Q&A for sure at the end. And as you're doing that, I'm going to turn the floor over now to our next panelist, Aleksandra.
Thank you, Jeff. And thank you to all the other panelists for really setting the stage for where we are with workplace charging, the barriers, the potential solutions. And I'm here to share a little bit about what Forth is doing to increase workplace charging. So hello, everyone. My name is Aleksandra Evert. I'm a program manager with Forth. And I am so excited to be here, and I'm so excited to announce the launch of our new program, the Electric Vehicle Adoption Leadership Certification, or EVAL for short. Okay, so what is EVAL? EVAL is a certification program that provides technical assistance and recognition for organizations that support the adoption of clean transportation. EVAL indicates the availability of clean transportation options and opportunities that are available for staff at a workplace. EVAL distinguishes businesses for the sustainable actions they take toward making and adopting cleaner employee commutes. There are 4 different levels of the EVAL certification, which are all based on the total number of points that the organization receives when they fill out the application. And those are bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. So what are we really trying to accomplish with the certification? Well, our goal is to execute a nationwide workplace charging program that is comprised of education, outreach, technical assistance, and other activities that enable a large-scale increase in workplace charging. We're really looking to engage employers of all types and sizes and to get their commitments to catalyze the installation of over 20,000 port installations. And of course, we're looking for many, many employers to install the chargers and get them EVAL certified. For EVAL, employers from all industries and all sizes, including state, local, tribal government entities, as well as community-based organizations and nonprofits, are all eligible to apply. And we're particularly interested in reaching employees in sustainability, human resources, and facilities management positions, as those are the ones that are most often involved in workplace charging programs. When we've been designing the certification along with our partners, we really kept the user experience at the forefront and really wanted to make it as easy and streamlined and seamless as possible to get certified. So the certification process is quite straightforward with just a few easy steps. So it begins with registering your organization and completing an onboarding questionnaire. And that includes answering some questions about you, about your role within the organization, and also just about your organization in general. You'll then apply for the eval certification by filling out the questionnaire, which I'll talk about in the next slide. You'll also have a variety of tools and resources that are available to you to help you successfully create the workplace charging program and to also help you navigate through the certification. You, of course, have the option to connect with Fourth and all of our partners to get additional support or some advice. And I just want to say, please don't be shy. Reach out. We'd love to hear from you and start the conversation. Finally, you'll submit your application, which will get reviewed by Fourth staff, and then you'll receive your certification and get recognized. So, employers get the certification points for eval by filling out the questionnaire that assesses their efforts toward promoting clean transportation at their workplace and supporting employees to travel more sustainably. Once the user completes the onboarding questionnaire that I mentioned earlier, they'll then move into the certification process, which consists of 5 sections. The first is really all about employee engagement, which is geared towards understanding your employee current commutes and their e-mobility needs. Section 2 is all about planning and evaluation. And section 3 is really interesting. It's e-mobility incentives. And this is really geared for employers who do not own their parking facility or who are unable to install charging or influence their situation. This allows employers who don't have chargers to still get certified and get recognized for their other efforts. Section 4 is our largest section, which is all about expanding access to EV charging stations. And the final section is all about innovation. So this section allows employers to share with us what they're doing currently to promote sustainability leadership through innovative and regional programs that are maybe not captured in other sections of the certification. This allows us to hear from you, to learn from you, and to recognize you for what you're already doing. So, as I mentioned, Fourth, in collaboration with many of our partners, have developed a variety of resources to help employers get started on their workplace charging program. That includes webinars, template surveys, forms, a directory of local providers and installers, as well as best practices and educational resources. And like I mentioned, Fourth and our partners are also available to help and help you through the application process. And now I know what you're all thinking. What do I get out of it? Well, as an eval certified employer, you will receive a variety of perks and recognition, which includes a certificate, of course, a multimedia promotion from Fourth and partners, opportunities to participate in our eval roundtable work group, a spotlight on the website, and much, much more. And for this first year until November 2024, the certification is free of charge for all employers. After that, we will implement a fee for each certification. So if you're interested, I encourage you to reach out and apply soon. And now, if you're interested in installing chargers, but you're not sure where to start, Charge at Work provides tools, resources, and technical assistance to make for workplaces looking to install EV chargers through incentives, support with site plans, and also offering free site assessments. This is a free brand agnostic program that seeks to support employers through the installation process. I want to note that Charge at Work and eval are both U.S. Department of Energy funded complementary programs that are aimed to increase workplace charging through technical support and national recognition. I really encourage everyone to check out the Project Builder tool on the Charge at Work website. Okay, so what's next? If you're interested in certifying your organization or know someone who might, please get in touch with us. We would love to connect with you after the presentation, or we welcome you to sign up for our first information session. We also encourage you to demonstrate your commitment to electric transportation by signing the Charge at Work pledge. And if you have chargers or a program that supports facilitating sustainable employee commutes, let's get you certified. Really looking forward to hearing from all of you and answering any questions you have at the end. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Aleksandra. It's an exciting program, and looking forward to seeing that grow and develop. So appreciate all that information, and I'm going to now invite Amy up here on the virtual stage and turn the floor over to her.
Great, thanks, Jeff. Yeah, I'm Amy Posner, the electric vehicle planner for the City of Alexandria, Virginia. And in case some of you are not familiar with Alexandria, we're located in Northern Virginia, just 6 miles south of Washington, D.C. Alexandria is on the ancestral lands of the Piscataway and the Doeg people. It's a compact city of about 16 square miles and a population of just over 160,000 folks. Alexandria is well known for our historic Old Town. You can see an image of King Street and our famous free King Street trolley on the slide here. And we're happy to be partnering with Forth on this effort. We're one of several municipalities included in the project to promote and do outreach with Charge at Work and the eval programs to really get the word out and provide some assistance to the workplaces in our community and our region. Alexandria is a great place for to consider workplace charging. Because of its thriving business community, we were named the #1 business climate for small metro areas in Business Facilities Magazine in 2022. But Alexandria has been taking steps for some time to kind of build a sustainable electric vehicle ecosystem within our community. So our electric vehicle charging infrastructure readiness strategy, or EVRS, was adopted in 2021 and has a list of recommendations that serve as a roadmap for how we can promote EV adoption and address EV charging needs within our city fleets, for our residents, our workforce, and our visitors. And our Energy and Climate Change Action Plan has set goals for EV adoption in the community. And those are, 50% of new vehicle sales are EV or electric by 2030, and then 100% of new vehicle sales are electric by 2050. And workplace charging really is a pretty critical component of the strategy to help us meet our goals for the community. So while most charging happens at home, I think the Department of Energy says about 80% of charging happens at home. About 50% of Alexandrians live in multifamily dwellings and may not have access to a charger in a garage or a driveway. We also have a lot of residents that rely on street parking. And so while we're working on addressing charging solutions for all of our residents and community members, having workplace charger would be a really big benefit to folks that are interested in purchasing an EV but aren't sure, where they would charge at home. And Alexandrians have been, over the past few years, adopting EVs at a higher rate than the national average. So within the analysis conducted as a part of our EVRS, we know that we'll need, under kind of the strongest policy scenario, where we've got strong local, state, and federal policy, about 1,500 workplace chargers by 2050. And Alexandria has over 7,500 businesses. Those are going to obviously range in size, but we do have some larger kind of headquarter organizations as well. It's a Patent and Trade Office, National Science Foundation, Virginia Tech's forthcoming innovation campus, WMATA's regional headquarters. And so there's a lot of opportunity there. And because this is a critical component for our charging strategy, and kind of our EV adoption strategy in our community, we're really motivated to support workplaces as they evaluate and set up their workplace charging programs. And it's likely going to be just as important in other municipalities as well, to really make EVs feasible for folks that need a car. So we're lucky to be partnering with Forth on this project, but I want to say that your local government can really be a great resource for workplaces looking to do this work. Ellie just presented that there's a lot of barriers to these types of projects. So, your local government may be able to provide some technical assistance or connect you with helpful resources, help support you if you wanted to do like a ride and drive event for staff to get folks comfortable and more familiar with, driving an EV, and making sure you're aware of any incentives or regulations that may be available or imposed on you. So currently in Alexandria, our standard conditions for new construction require that 2% of the parking spaces are required to have EV charging, and 75% are required to be EV ready. And these are updated somewhat regularly. So your municipality may have similar requirements or recommendations. So it's important to understand what those requirements are and how to incorporate them into any sort of workplace charging program. An important strategy for Alexandria and for us to help promote workplace charging around the city is really to connect with our business community through, our local partners. There are, number of business associations and different organizations that can help us directly reach workplaces in Alexandria. You'll see some of their logos here. So we really want to make sure that, we can make sure all the businesses across the city can get access and benefit from this information. And in addition to, trying to work with our workplaces and employers in the city itself is a large employer. So I'm also kind of currently evaluating the opportunities to establish a workplace charging program for our staff. So the City of Alexandria currently employs over 2,500 people, and the city does offer some existing transit and commuting benefits, such as discounted transit and discounted and parking. And while we do have a strong transit network in Alexandria, we've got 5 metro stations and a fareless bus system. We do have a lot of staff that drive to work every day. So a workplace charging program would definitely help the city kind of meet those greenhouse gas reduction goals that I described earlier on. And so within this evaluation of a potential program, we're still in the early stages, but we're also considering opportunities for sharing charging resources between the public, our municipal fleet, as well as our staff. And it may be the same in your city, but a lot of times we have a couple facilities where the staff park in the same general area as where fleet vehicles are. So, if our fleet vehicles are out in the city from 9 to 5, that could leave those chargers, unoccupied and available for city employees without needing, dedicated charging infrastructure for our fleet, as well as dedicated charging infrastructure for our employees. And the same considerations for sharing infrastructure with publicly accessible charging. We're currently evaluating options too to, allow the public to potentially use some of these chargers outside of work hours. Several of our facilities are located where folks work near their parks and recreation areas, or popular spots for dining and shopping. So there could be some good benefits there, again, to kind of share that infrastructure. And something important to consider as well is that workplace charging isn't just passenger vehicles. That may also look like providing secure storage and charging for e-mobility devices like personally owned scooters and e-bikes. So like I mentioned, the city is just kind of getting started on this journey. So we're really glad to be a part of this Department of Energy project with Forth to really rely on some of these resources and programs, not only to encourage workplace charging throughout the city, but, at the city itself. So I think my email is on another slide, but I'll turn it back over to you, Jeff.
Okay, thanks for that, Amy, and appreciate all that information. And so I think we're ready now to shift into the Q&A session. So I think I'll invite all of our panelists to unmute and join me here on the virtual screen. And I think I'll go ahead and maybe kick off the Q&A. And Amy, not to put you on the spot, but this one maybe links into what you were saying about sort of introducing some of these strategies in Aleksandra with the eval program. So we had a great question come in that, let's say a workplace installs charging stations. What are strategies to help employees access or more broadly adopt electric vehicles?
Sure, I can provide maybe a couple thoughts and then look forward to other what folks think. But there's a lot of misinformation out there, and just a lot of information in general that can make it difficult for folks to figure out, what they may need when it comes to a vehicle or charging. But I think that if there's a way to do like any sort of ride and drive events or kind of like EV showcase events, done these in the city, to really give folks kind of hands-on experience and give an opportunity to ask kind of candid questions of EV owners or or sales folks to give them that hands-on experience can make them more comfortable and more excited about purchasing EV.
Yeah, I kind of want to add on to that. So, like what Alexandra was talking about with Charge at Work, they have workplace charging programs. So they can help you also give out surveys, monitor usage, and engaging employees by having ride and drives, like Amy said, is also a lot of fun. Also, if you're in Colorado and you are interested in doing that, then let me know. I'm definitely the person to talk to about that. Um, and then there's also financial incentives. So even just providing information on the opportunities that exist out there, federal tax incentives, state tax incentives, even providing a stipend for your employees. That's something that I'm also seeing grow in popularity. Maybe partnering with dealerships, but yeah, there's a lot of different ways that workplaces can engage employees with this.
Jason, you're muted.
I just was reading over the question here. How does the cost of solar power collection from car parks compare to rooftops? They're kind of going into the workplace. We're definitely like CSU here, Colorado State University. They're going to be building a new building. They'll have multiple chargers there because that's kind of their studies, but they'll have a solar canopy, and it is something that we're seeing coming up for like religious spaces, places of worship. They might want to have chargers there because you're in session for a couple hours. So anywhere that a workplace might have people coming in kind of in the morning, they're going to all come in and park, and then they're going to be gone all day long. Those kinds of charging areas might be like level 2 chargers. If someone's coming in and that's going to charge the car over like 6 to 8 hours. If they're coming in and they're going to come in and pick some people up and they're going to take the EV somewhere else, that needs to be a fast charger. And so there's different things you can add to that to kind of offset that huge amount of use of energy. You can use solar. You can have wind, even like vertical wind is something that we're seeing school districts start to take up. And then you can add batteries to that to offset that usage. So there's just 100 different ways to do it, to offer it, but they all kind of are built differently to offer employees a different kind of experience with what they need, and maybe leave it open for the rest of the workforce to use if that's necessary.
Sounds good. Another question that came in. Curious if there's any hard data or studies that show how much more valuable, a building will be if they have EV ready spaces, or if that EV readiness has been done. So, any panelists have thought on that?
I have not seen hard data per se, but like we all know, like there's retention of employees, right? There's new employees that like employers are wondering about workplace charging because new employees are asking, do you have workplace charging? And that's becoming more of a thing. So there's like that qualitative side to it. Would say that like the cost of like building something where what is EV ready versus like the upgrade afterwards, like breaking down the concrete, like running the conduit, all that is super expensive. So like if you do it while you're building the building, you're gonna save a lot of money, that's for sure. But I don't have like a study to put as a reference here.
There are, I did see that question earlier and I've been researching it. There are some studies, 2019, 2020, 2022. I'll definitely be happy to share those with you or anyone. It's just a matter of kind of compiling it. Maybe an email might be best for us. So, but definitely worth keeping that conversation going. So.
Sounds great. That'd be great to have those resources, Jason. Thanks. Another great question that came in, what is the best way to implement charging at a multi-tenant office building in a way that allows all the building occupants to share the use of the chargers? Thoughts on that?
I can kind of speak on it. So we have charging at work, but we don't have like a massive office building. So right now, since we don't have too much of an issue with like not enough parking spaces for it, I don't have personal experience that I can add on to this, but there are a lot of different ways that businesses can monitor it. I know the Colorado Department of Transportation, they're going to start a new management kind of protocol at the beginning of next year, and they will monitor like who's using the spaces, how long they're there. Maybe there's like 3 hours a day max. There's a lot of different ways you can kind of like cater it to your own office building, and the Charge at Work program that Aleksandra presented about would be a great resource for that.
Yeah, I would just add a little bit to what Lacey said. It would have to come between the different office residents, right, of how they want to approach it. Either they sign a MOU or have a different procedures in place. I know for condo owners that install chargers, there's only so many parking spots. They're all deeded. So if you install chargers, how are you going to share that resource if it's funded through the HOA, right? So they put different procedures in place to make that an accessible resource for everybody. And also just with the networking of chargers, there's so many wonderful features that are available, including, putting on time limits for everyone, or this floor is using it on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Everybody else uses it on Thursdays and Tuesdays or something like that. So there's a lot of really innovative things that people could put together to make that happen.
It kind of reminds me of getting back to the, all I needed to know I learned in elementary school, right? Just how do you share, a great resource amongst lots of people. So anyway, so this was a question that came in, Lacey, it was directed at you, but I think anyone can jump in. Just a question about charger maintenance. You'd mentioned that in your presentation. Sort of what does that look like? And the person asked, is it just a matter of keeping the charging port clean, or so
Yeah.
maybe you could just elaborate a little bit on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's actually two different kinds of maintenance, pretty much. There's hardware and software. So, like you touched on the hardware aspect of it, keeping the port clean. But aside from that, there's also regular inspection, making sure all the wires are connected correctly. I don't know, anything can happen over time. Um, Cleaning and aesthetics, accessibility, making sure there's no obstructions as time progresses, and then with the software, you'll have software updates too, and everything's, I don't know, just pretty brand new in this industry. So you might have a lot more now than you will later. I'm not totally sure. Keeping up with security measures too. When there is vandalism, unfortunately, like you'll have to, I guess, clean that up, and then upgrades are also a thing, and being up to date on regulations as well. So there's actually a lot that comes with charger maintenance.
And I'll also add that when when you're thinking about maintenance, you want to expand that a little bit, right? You also want to think about all the lighting that you have around the charging station to make it safe, making sure all the light bulbs are good, nothing's broken. Same with EV signage. So if you have it on the pavement, making sure, does it need repainting to make it really clear and legible? So just expanding that definition also a little bit.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you so much for adding that. And then also, like I had in my presentation, future proofing, at what point do you actually need to add additional chargers? So keeping up with maintenance, seeing if I don't know, the demand, if you need to keep up with the demand by adding more chargers, that's another important aspect of it.
I think that's a great point. It also kind of reminds me of the first question that we discussed in the Q&A about how do you get people to use the resource once it's there. I think in my mind, part of the maintenance is making sure that you're talking to your employees and educating them about, hey, here's the resources that are available, and making it something that's top of their mind, to keep it fresh and the interest going, so it isn't just relying on if we build it, they will come, needing to change that behavior a little bit. Aleksandra, I had just a quick question for you on the eval question. I was curious on the certification process. Is that how long will that be good for once an employer applies? Is that a renewal that'll have to happen at a certain frequency, or is that maybe if you could just clarify that a little bit?
Sure, yeah, that's a great question, and excited to hear that there's some interest in the chat already. Once an employer certifies, it's a one and done, right? So you don't have to certify every year or every X amount of years. However, if you certify anything that's less than a platinum being the highest level of the certification, and then let's say in a couple of years you install more chargers, or you improve your program, or you add something extra, you have the option to recertify to achieve that higher level if you so choose.
Great. Thanks. And then I think we have time for one final question real quick. Question came in about thoughts on level 1 charging at work. So it's much less expensive to install, and potentially gives enough charge through the workday to cover commutes. So just quick round of thoughts on that.
Well, I can go first. I think that we need to really consider what the budget is for that employer, right? What are the circumstances? What are the type of cars? But yeah, I feel like that could be a good start. You don't have to have DCFC for employers. Like L2 is just fine, and L1 could provide that enough charge for a typical ride, right? So I think it's a good resource to start with. Probably you just need an outlet that that has some standards, right? But yeah, I think it's a good resource. I don't know what the other panelists think.
I think from what we've just seen for different types of entities, if it's a school district and they have some passenger vehicles, they might have level 1s, and they get plugged in and they're used ever so rarely. If it's a workplace, 8 hours is kind of like 8 to 10 hours max is something that somebody might be parked. Maybe they're a 12-hour shift, right? And they're parked even longer. That's where like the longer shifts, a level 1 really does make sense. It's a low power draw, and they can have multiples, right? So you could have a dozen of them, and your current capacity, your panel, especially with load switching, might be able to handle that. So when one car fills up, that machine turns off, or it's empowered, and the other vehicles start to charge. So it's the cheapest way really to have multiple cars charging at one time and not causing your power bill to go through the roof. So there's definitely benefits for every single type of level. And then with level 3, it's just going to keep getting more and more powerful as time goes by. So more efficient.
I think that Jason summarized that really well. Level one definitely has a place in workplace charging. It just the matter of finding the right employer to match that need. Like Jason said, really long shifts and having the ability to have multiple chargers is very easy. So I'll just echo everything Jason said.
And I know we're kind of out of time, but I do want to do the math on it real quick. So you get about 2 to 5 miles per hour of charging. So if you are charging for 8 hours a day, you can get 40 miles. And so, like you said, that definitely does cover a trip. So it definitely should be considered. And I'm sure eval certification could also include that. You could get some points for level 1 charging as well.
You definitely can. Yes.
Thank you all so much for joining us today. And speaking of eval, I'm sure Aleksandra mentioned we do have some eval informational sessions that are scheduled. So we will include some more information in our webinar recap. So we have the information from our speakers and panelists. I just want to thank everyone for joining us today, most especially Jeff. Thank you for leading us today. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Ellie. Thank you, Lacey. Thank you, Amy. And thank you, Aleksandra, for the knowledge you shared with us today. And we know that the conversation and the dialogue will continue offline. You can get more information with our webinar recap that we will be sending shortly. That will include our webinar presentations as well as the recording and additional resources from our panelists today. And you've been with us this year with all 9 webinars we've hosted. Why not end the year, wrap up the year with us? On December 12th, Jeff Allen, our executive director, will be leading a conversation with industry experts to review 2023 and look forward to 2024. We look forward for you to wrap up the year with us. And again, thank you all for joining us. Have a good rest of your day, a good rest of your week, and we look forward to seeing you all soon. Bye.